nevertheless. All right, I am back, chat. This is day 20 of the Diddy trial, day 2 of 30 for us. We got 28 more days. Feeling good. Feel like the Deja Love star. I'm wearing all white. I'm feeling godly. How y'all like your boy in white? Or should I keep it to black? Huh? Look good or no? Just inspired, man. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogie, man. I'm the one that just go with them. Like that line. What's poppin', chat? What we doing? All right. Oh, yo, chat. We're gonna move at an expeditious pace today. Okay. It'll all be revealed. Just chill out. Okay. Now, the Diddy trial actually started about an hour ago. Yo, I need some water. What the fuck? No, I got water here. The fuck? Anyway. So, the cross-examine. Oh my God, I know. I got to go light today, Chad. My voice. Got to go light. Wow, I could feel it. I could feel like it's about to go. Was I screaming yesterday? I know we did 10 hours. Was I screaming? Anyway. Okay, so this is day 20th. Jane, Daphne Joy, is now on the stand, and the cross is going to be starting. Apparently, before the jury came in, Sumerian is now making a ruling. Judge says, I'm ruling that the government cannot recall the doctor for more testimony, despite the Second Circuit decision in U.S. versus Larry Ray. Now, the reason why they're saying they can't recall, number one, they wanted to recall. Remember, they put the doctor right after Cassie, but they also wanted to bring her for right after Jane. Not only did they want to recall her for Jane, they wanted to do this cross-examination where they brought up certain stuff that, you know, to kind of shoring up the Cassie stuff. Because, again, I don't know what you guys think. I really think that, you know, this woman, given, you know, obviously they were fucking around for like 3 years, I think her testimony is going to be worth way more than Cassie. Again, optic-wise, I think the prosecutor knows this. Everybody keeps saying, well, of course, Cassie is the strongest victim because she lasted 11 years. Well, Cassie lasted 11 years, got out of a relationship with him, and was with another man for 5 years before she filed a civil suit. This case right here, we're seeing a woman who was dealing with Diddy up until the point of his arrest. And she's saying, yo, Diddy even paid for my lawyer. He's still paying for my place. Basically, she's like, it wasn't until I got a therapist I realized I was being abused. I was saying no way more than Cassie said no. Cassie didn't. Remember, Cassie said, I felt like I couldn't say no. I wouldn't say no because he would do it with another woman. Daphne was saying no a lot. Diddy was saying to her, well, if you don't do it, I'll give you two more months in that damn apartment. But I got to cut that shit off. I can't have you rocking out in an apartment that I'm paying for 10 bands a month and you don't want to do the freak-offs. That was the thing. What does that show? And this is why I say stronger than Cassie. Diddy's lawyers, I think, did an effective job to paint Cassie as a woman who, you know, wanted love and sought out affection and sought out family and sought out all the other things she saw other women get with Diddy. She was down to do things that was maybe, you know, outside of, you know, the scope of what she would be comfortable with, but she was never forced. She did it in the faith of love. She wanted Diddy. Ultimately, she left. She didn't file a lawsuit until she was financially in despair. That testimony hits different than the woman who did a freak-off with you after your house got raided. She did a freak-off with you a month before. She was about to go to New York, and Diddy got arrested. I really think this is a star witness, people. I think if I'm the jury, I'm going to listen to her a little bit more because it seems way more transactional. We've never heard Cassie say, yo, Sean, just because I fucked 5 niggas last night, could you grease my account? Could you give me some bread? Could you send me a cash app? It was always understood. You my bitch. You get what you want. She never connected money to sex acts. Remember, when we're talking about sex trafficking, you need to prove that it's a commercial sex act. And commercial sex acts usually means a sex act that has financial transactions between it. Now, to be fair, what Diddy would do with Cassie, Diddy would say, check this out, Cassie. When you disobey me, you sneak out the hotel, you go fuck another rapper. Yes, I'm going to take away what I bought you. He definitely did that. That's not necessarily playbook sex trafficking. It's not necessarily playbook sex trafficking, people. So I do think that Cassie isn't a strong enough witness. And I know some of y'all are going to be more endeared to Cassie because the video of the beatdown. This ain't domestic violence. This isn't domestic violence. There was no sex workers that said, I witnessed Diddy beat Cassie because she wouldn't fuck me. Now, one did say, I heard like he was beating her in the next room, but I couldn't get hard. I couldn't perform after that. We don't know if they didn't testify to say he was beating her to keep fucking. So what we know with Cassie, again, I'm not saying these things are not proven, but I could see a jury kind of like, is it proven that Cassie was fucking for money? There's an understanding. We're thinking, well, you're fucking with Diddy. You want to keep the money flowing, so you're probably doing what he wants. But there is no explicit conversations and agreements like how Diddy is speaking to Jane. He's speaking to Daphne to say, well, if you don't do the freak off, he actually has a voice note. He says, get on your job, ma. You got to get on your job. Cassie described that she thought the freak offs were a job because she stopped doing music or the focus was on music. It's one thing when she testifies it. It's another thing when Diddy's on the line saying, get on your job, ma. Get on your motherfucking job. This is the video, if you guys don't remember, of Diddy talking to Gina where he's telling her, I'm not going to do the silent treatment. You better get on your job. That is what I think is a stronger proof of sex trafficking. Now, I know she's denied this, and this is why I can't wait for the cross today. But she's denied being a sex worker. Part of sex trafficking is being a sex worker, even if it's involuntary. When Diddy says, get on your job, and he seemingly is referring to, I need these freak offs. He's telling her in text, when she says, I don't want to do this no more. He says, well, you got 3 more months in that apartment, then I got to stop paying. I'm good. Those things are a stronger proof of sex trafficking. Don't let Cassie tears, her pregnancy, and all the other sob stories make you think she's a stronger witness. And Drill, make sure you click this. I need y'all to just put this up on YouTube. Who's the stronger witness? Cassie or Gina? No, it's not Gina. My bad. I keep saying Gina. Daphne Joy. Cassie, you could make the reasonable assumption she was a young girl seeking love. Did she love everything that came with it? Yes. Did she get beat? Yes. But did she willingly do all these things? Did she suggest it? Did she start taking the initiative? Again, I'm not saying it's impossible for someone to say Cassie was sex trafficked, but there is more of a gray area where it says, nah, that's just a girl who wants her man, and she down to do anything that other bitches might not do to get her man. That's a reasonable way to look at this. Daphne, Diddy tells her, I got multiple other girls. I have multiple other women. You're not my girl. I'll pay this for you. We're going to do, and this is the big thing, chat. Remember, this is a RICO. We need enterprise. We need this to seem like an organization. We're doing a love contract. We have a love contract. There was no contract with Cassie, but there was a love contract with Daphne. That's why I'm saying way stronger for sex trafficking. Love contract. It's written on a piece of paper. As long as you make me happy, you do what I want. You give me, it probably doesn't say you give me FREEKOFFs, but, or hotel nights, $10,000 a month. I got you. That seemingly is an agreement. Not seemingly, it is. You're on tape saying, get on your job.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know. You think you silent treating me, and you think I'm gonna be You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence, and ain't nobody threatening you. And I ain't trying to go back and forth with no woman. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I ain't got no time for no motherfucking games. Where my life is at right now, I don't have no time for no games, baby girl. Me and you could be mad. I could have a spat. We could have whatever. Then after that, you better get on your job. That's really that's all it is.
Right there. Get on your job. The threat of removing essentials, even though $10,000 a month is wild for rent, I'm gonna take it away if you don't keep doing this sexual act. She testified. Diddy kicked down 5 doors, beat her up, took a shower with her, slapped her, told her, get ready, put some makeup on, it's time to suck some dick. Diddy, seemingly after a physical altercation, had her have sex with someone who she claimed she never wanted to have sex with. Afterwards, to make it commercial, so we get force. Remember, sex trafficking, you need commercial sex act that's being done, moving one person from one place to another, interstate because it's a federal, and it's by force, fraud, or coercion. Forced assault. The coercion, if you don't do this, I'm stop paying. And in most federal cases, this is the strongest part. Show me the money. She testified, Diddy gave me $12,000. I broke off $4,000 to the sex workers. I took 8. Here's the thing. She don't realize she's a sex worker too. That's why they want to bring this huge psychologist person to explain to the jury. Nah, she was a sex worker. She's resentful to that term, and she did love him or she liked him. But essentially, Diddy looked at her and treated her like a sex worker. I keep telling you, this is the one. Diddy go to jail? This is the one. Reasonable case, abusive boyfriend, girlfriend shit, Cassie. Not so much. You have a girl that's not your girlfriend. You're telling her, I got you on a contract. I'm going to pay you this. Do this. You're still beating her ass. And then you're also, it's a lot. She's telling you repeatedly, don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. And you're saying, better get on your job.
Cause you got me on my job. Nah, it ain't never gonna work like that over here. You know what I'm saying? I was trying not to leave this message, but you have left me no choice. So either you.
Somebody said he didn't use force. Donald Dale. We might have to send you back to King Academics page. You can't be over the academy saying dumb shit. Force doesn't mean you're holding her head down on a dick, brother. Force is violence. That's what force is. Violence. He supposedly beat her up, kicked 4 doors down, took a shower with her, slapped the shit out of her, and told her, get ready, you got to go suck Anton's dick. If that's not force, what is? We got to deport that guy. Deport him. We doing an ICE raid. Get that man over to King Academics. Get that man. There's smart people. Like, there's smart people over at King Academics too. But the academy, you can't be at the academy and not be. Come on. The academy? Come on now. This man said, I don't see the force though. Okay. Now, again, this is a testimony of Jane. I'm describing what the prosecutor is eliciting. Now, do I think all these chicks were kind of, they knew what it was? kind of in and around the sorts. Did they all have multiple chances to leave? Of course. I think Daphne, and I think that's what we're about to get into the cross right now. Daphne had more chances to leave than Cassie. Diddy would send people to stalk Cassie. It would send people to go get Cassie back to him. Daphne, he told, bitch, leave. If you don't want to suck these dicks, leave. I got other chicks. Leave. She wouldn't leave. Leave. He told her to leave mad times. And we didn't see him do anything, but he did one time. He hit her up and he was trying to get her back, but he wasn't doing some of the crazy stuff that Cassie said. Oh, he would have the security pull up on me. He would da-da-da-da-da. Nah. Okay. Back in court, people. Here we go. Submaranian says on the Jane notes reflecting to the alleged fraud to induce her into hotel nights, they're admissible. Okay? Now, remember, she wrote notes to herself about what Diddy promised. Now, let me explain this to y'all. Overseas, if you go to Romania, they call this, there's actually a charge for this. There's actually a Netflix documentary on this because they said the lover boy method is criminalized certain places. I know y'all niggas, some niggas who your game is spitting game and selling a dream to a certain extent. You should do it to a certain extent if that's your thing. If a woman is only doing certain acts because they feel you promised them certain things, it becomes hazy. Now, is it documented? That heightens it even more. Now, remember, this woman is now testifying against Diddy. He promised me, and I would imagine that's what's in the notes. He promised me that if I got on that plane to come see him, it would just be a one-on-one, just me and him. Date night, movies. We're just doing that. What ends up happening? I get to him. Anton is whacking off, and I got to suck his dick for 30 hours. That's what basically the fraud is coming in. Do y'all understand? Fraud, force, coercion. Coercion would be coercion and fraud links. Yo, coercion is if you don't suck that dick, I don't know if I could keep paying rent. I don't know if I could do it. That says you're coercing her to do an act. It's like implicitly force, if you don't know. I think that's what the word means, actually, directly. Force is going to be, doesn't mean hold you down. It just means using physical intimidation and things that affect you directly. Fraud is going to be I tell you I'm going to do that, and to keep you here or doing more shit, I don't do it. I deceived you. That's fraud. So when Diddy would say, now come to New York, we're going to have one-on-one time. And now she goes to New York and she's not having one-on-one time. She's now involved in a commercial sex act. That is a clearer definition of sex trafficking. Sony, let me read what you just said. What'd you just say? Let me read your donation. Again, Tenny Garagos is going to do the cross. By the way, chat, I'm not here litigating for Diddy or not. But, as well, like, I ain't gonna lie, I like Unc, but I can tell Unc fucks with Diddy heavy, and he's like, his mind is made up already. I can tell. I love Unc, though. His mind is made up that Diddy's innocent. It don't matter what I think. I think these chicks was kind of with it. I think this nigga's just like beating girls. That's what I think. And he's freaky. That don't mean he gonna be found innocent. It's not about what we think. This is why we cover in the trial how we do. It ain't about what we think. It's about how the evidence is coming out. Wow, my voice. Is coming out. And what do we think reasonable people? And it's not going to be people that just think like the chat. It's going to be some women in there they're sobbing a little bit like I've been defrauded by some niggas too. There's a couple niggas be like, damn, imagine if that was my daughters, the older dudes. There's going to be a mixed perspective. So understand when I'm giving these other scenarios of why the government is doing a more effective job, it's not because of what I think. What I think is irrelevant. And that's why I'm not trying to give one particular side, because if the verdict doesn't agree with me, y'all gonna say, Ack, well, why did you present the case like that? I felt very guilty about the Tory stuff. But it wasn't really on me because I wasn't in court. We were listening. That's why I keep listening to 5 different people, read it 15 times. I'll give you it one way, but I got to give it to you another way. We got to try it every way. Okay. Sony says, yo, Ack, thank you for the 20, by the way. Why are you putting on this narrative out there on Diddy? Okay, he's a freak. He gave Daphne an option. If she didn't want to comply, she could leave. I'm starting to feel you want Diddy in prison. That's not the case, brother. I'm only going off what the charges are. The charges are sex trafficking. Brother, we know that these chicks was down with the get down. If Diddy don't get arrested, Daphne never comes out. We know that. But we can't root for Diddy. Even if you like Diddy, you can't root for Diddy in our chat. We're not in court. You should have been a juror if you feel like that. Go to be a juror. We're keeping our own jury here, and we want to be fair and honest. That's it. Okay. Baby D, the Space Cowboy, says, I'm back smoking on that white rabbit. Hey, academics. Think you should call whack. Tim D. the Barber says, I have a feeling Daphne Joy may be the defense Trojan horse. I'm glad you said that. We'll see what she says on cross. She has to. Now, I think she gave enough on direct. Now, if on cross she said, I'm going to be honest, I don't even know how she could flip back what she said yesterday, but we'll see. I don't know how she could flip back what she said yesterday. It was damaging. I'm telling you, Cassie shit, I see Cassie as a broke hoe who wanted to get some money, who picked a dude, used to a certain lifestyle, but picked a dude who couldn't match a lifestyle. Flawless P, thank you for that. Thank you for the 5. It says, if he was using the word job as a paid position, then you'd be accurate. But he says, I'm doing my job. It implies he's doing he's using the word job as a duty. Flawless P. It's good. Listen, this is why we cover court cases. Because if you're a good debater, you also understand that most things ain't black and white. That's a gray area. It's a gray area. We just got to prove this guy been doing commercial sex acts. You already have one inclination that's a commercial sex act because it includes a prostitute getting paid thousands of dollars. So even if it's a little bit out of context, and this is why the cross-examine has to debunk it, you want to play the audio where he's paying a sex worker. You have her admitting on the stand, all he wanted me for was hotel nights, and then you play the audio of him saying, get on your job. Chat, again, I'm going over these arguments made by both sides. All right? It's all good. Like, please don't think I'm taking a side. One day I think Diddy's guilty, one day I think he's innocent. I'm all over the place. Okay. So, Shapiro says, Miss Banner clearly said the balcony incident. Now, this is about, they want motion to dismiss. They said Banner lied on the stand, which they believe is so prejudicial, and she perjured herself, that because the jury heard that lie, they could no longer make a fair assessment on what's happening in court. They can't do it. Well, she testified, despite our objections, that Diddy held her off the balcony with 2 hands. Held her like this. 17th floor. Then lifted her back up and threw her like the Hulk. That's what was testified to. The defense came back to say, we got proof on the date in question. That never happened. Diddy was across the country. That was a flat out lie. You talked to the government over 27 times, and you never said another date. You never said another time. You were dead set that that's the date. Not only were you dead set that that was the date, you took pictures of the date. So when they looked at your phone, you went to the metadata and you said, yeah, that's the date that Diddy hung me off the balcony. So we got the date. Here's the problem. Diddy was not even on the same coast as you. So how was it Diddy? Flat out lie. That's the basic thing that we're seeing Diddy's team say. They doubled down on this so much and it's flat out a lie. We tainted the jury. Dismiss this bitch. Dismiss it. J-Locks, thank you for the 5. I think they made a point to establish Diddy is still taking care of Jane. In her case, her testimony helps during defense cross. Okay. Bless says, even the girl we don't like, that's the lawyer, said Jane Doe was the worst witness and that they'll lose a jury if they try to convince them the 10K option is coercion. Most people in the courtroom agree. Well, here's the thing. Even if you believe she's the worst witness, she's the worst of the best. Or the best of the worst, I mean. I listened to Cassie shit and all I kept hearing was Diddy beating her. This is not an abuse case. Diddy beat this girl too, but at least there's more. We have to hear money. Money. This is why they brought in this chief financial officer who said, yo, Diddy wired 20,000 there. They were trying to, without the money, this means nothing. This is sex trafficking, commercial sex acts. Diddy was paying for a lot of these things in cash. So we need to hear money. We got to hear money. This is commercial sex acts. Now, here's the thing. Cassie never said she got any of the proceeds. That's the thing. So look like both of y'all were hiring a sex worker. Gina is saying, no, I keep calling her Gina. Daphne's saying, I took some of the money sometimes, or at least one time. Let's keep it going. Just says, couldn't we just say the government screwed up, giving Miss Westmoreland a rare Perry Mason moment in federal court? That the defense back in its war zone could say, great job. What the hell is the judge saying? Huh? So they said, Banna clearly said the balcony incident took place on September 26th. She perjured herself, and they knew. The government elicited that all injuries were at the same time. The judge said some crazy shit. Couldn't we just say the government screwed up giving Miss Westmoreland a rare Perry Mason moment in federal court? So, okay, I get it. They're saying we could say the government, like, why do you want me to dismiss the entire trial, the entire case? Your defense attorney bodied her. The judge is admitting that, chat. The judge is admitting Miss Nicole Westmoreland, the one that said is the best defense lawyer up in there, bodied them. When she came out and had full proof, she bodied Banna. Banna looked like a crackhead up there and a liar. You did your job debunking that. Why should we just dismiss the case? So can't we just say whatever the defense back in this war zone could say, good job. So even the judge, this is kind of rare. The judge is telling the defense, you got a point here, but you guys bodied that point. Y'all bodied the fact that she really didn't get her dates right. Shapiro says, well, Westmoreland did do a great job, but they said they had Cassie see it as well. So Cassie is another witness who left the stand that y'all say we can't bring back. We need to have that moment with her. Because she was saying she was there for some a balcony dangling, and that ain't happened. That's a good point. So this is our second motion for a mistrial. I'm not sure why the government over there claiming that's our third. AUSA says perjury is only one prong of a 4-part test. We should Google that. We need to know all the laws here, chat. Mistrial, 4 prongs. Mistrial, 4 prongs. Court. What the fuck? Okay. So they're saying conditions. Okay. I'm going to look that up. Let me write that on the side. That's good to know. Because we really see mistrial. Mistrial. Perjury. So they're saying not because someone lies. And by the way, implicitly, I don't know if you're catching this. Implicitly, the AUSA, they're not admitting it directly, but they're kind of agreeing that, yeah, Banna might have perjured herself. She might have perjured herself. Now, will they take her up on perjury charges? Probably not. But they're admitting, yeah, looks like she lied. Even the AUSA, the judge agrees, and the AUSA. So this is why I keep saying Nicole Westmoreland is the best lawyer Diddy has. One incident of terror, the balcony dangling, has now been proven it's trash. Now, I do want to see if they're going to push this judge to instruct the jury to disregard the entire testimony of Banna, which I think they would. But not only that, what are they going to do about Cassie? Cassie's a main witness. Could they strike what Cassie said about the balcony without it being prejudicial? We already heard the story twice. You think we're about to forget? Nah, there's a balcony dangling. Maybe she got it. You know what the jury's thinking? The judge is saying there's no proof it happened now. The AUSA is saying, because she got the dates wrong, we don't got no other proof either. The jury is probably saying, because they're regular humans like me and you, they're like, well, 2 people said it. Yeah, even if they got the date wrong, maybe it was another date. I think it probably happened. Prejudice. Now we prejudice. So this is a big deal. Judge said this happened years ago. Banna has taken a lot of drugs. Thank God she's sober. Yo, Judge, get on your job, Judge. Get on your job, Judge. Why the judge over here talking about she sounded like some type of inpatient rehab program? What you mean? We don't give a fuck about her drug use. This man's life is hanging in the balance. Talking about thank God she's sober. Well, why? You should scold the prosecutors for putting up a drug addict on here that don't remember, that's testifying to shit that could seriously sway the minds of the people who's on the jury. But let's keep going. Mr. Steele is also moved for a mistrial. That's what AUSA says. Well, so he said he was going to move for one. So I guess he didn't. So they're trying to argue it's the third, but it's the second. Shapiro says, we object to Juror 6 being stricken. It's under seal, but they said everyone will be heard. Okay, so there's some with a juror. We don't know what it is. Bring in Jane, then the jury. Garagos, go ahead, Tenny. Go to cross-examination. Garagos says, you're Daphne. We met before, though, right? You remember that? Then you stopped meeting with the defense. That was your choice, right? So it looks like she might have been in the middle at first. She was thinking she could be a defense witness. Garagos says, let me get this straight. You're testifying against Mr. Combs, right? She asked the question, wait, I'm testifying against him? This ain't the sharpest knife, or she's about to gaslight people. Cool. So how many times did they prep you to be cross-examined at this trial? Jane says maybe 2 or 3. Garagos says, did you bring in other prosecutors to cross you? She says yes. Garagos says, after they granted you immunity at the grand jury, right? Ooh, so we get to find out. She had some secret meetings. They bring her to grand jury, and they probably threaten her just like how they threatened Cassie. You know we could indict you too. You were paying the sex workers. you're a co-conspirator. And that's the thing, too. I know y'all are going to say Daphne is turning on Diddy after she wrote that thing on Instagram saying, imagine if somebody's in cuffs that shouldn't be. It appears that she's not necessarily turning on Diddy as she is saving her own ass. Remember, all this no snitching shit, obviously women never stick by that code. But it's all about self-survival more than protecting somebody. They brought her to a grand jury. She took immunity. Why is she, what federal charge? Domestic violence ain't a federal charge. I mean, it kind of is, but still, like, they're not charging you for that. You don't need immunity because you put hands on Diddy. What would she need immunity for? Sex trafficking. You would be a co-conspirator. You were getting the guys. You were organizing it. You were talking to them a lot. Garrigo says, you said you had a regret about some of the choices you made with Combs, right? She says, if you have it, I'd love to look at it with you. Well, okay. What's going on here, Chad? She's either unprepared or I don't know if she's about to dance. You know what I mean? She's about to dance. She's about to do the cha-cha. Maybe she's going to play dumb and help Diddy. If she plays dumb, she can help Diddy. She got to hit the don't recalls. Yeah, it's been a long time. I love him. No, I beat him too. Oh, he only put hands on me after I put hands on him. Maybe she helps. She already got the immunity. What she can't do, because her testimony was rehearsed, she had to say that yesterday. She can't go back on it. This ain't no YSL Woody shit. You get your immunity and act up. Can't do it. But this is cross. If you want to help Diddy, she could start taking some responsibility. Or don't remember certain facts. Okay? That's if she want to help Diddy and did the wink, wink. Let me get the deal from the government and then close that back door. Don't get snaked by your homie. You get me? Let's see. Garrigo says, it was your choice to participate in that lifestyle for many years, huh? You didn't want to break up with him, right? She says, I didn't want to. Garrigo says, you had sex with other men for years, right? I'm surprised there wasn't an objection here. Remember, they can't talk about her sexual history because she's a victim. But they allowed it. Jane says, I resent the emotional control. I was hooked from the start. There was pressure to perform these acts my lover desired. Garrigo says, you use the word partner again and again on direct. He was your partner? She says, yes. Garrigo says, You said you're having trouble answering for yourself while you had sex with these men. She said, yes. Garrigo says, are you in therapy now? She says, yes. Do you love Mr. Combs? I love to spend time with my partner. You want to cuddle with him? I like to give him foot rubs. You said, objection. It said, counselor's making herself a witness. Jane says, I love to bathe with Sean, and we watch his favorite show. What show is that? He loves some Dateline. Did you believe he was not doing this with anyone else? Well, during this time period, yeah. You ever look at his messages? You ever going through his phone? Yeah. He was vulnerable in those hotel rooms. That's what she's saying. And I shared that with him. It was conflicted. I was breaking all my boundaries so he would feel loved. Garrigo says, so this brought you two together? Jane says, yes. Our lovemaking afterwards. That's why I enjoyed it. Garrigo says, did you try to be very sexy to him in those rooms? Jane says, I think I was sexy in those rooms. Yeah. Garrigo says, yeah, that's because you're a beautiful woman, right? Did you ever choose the wardrobe? Jane says, initially he did. Okay. Garrigo says, he liked the baby oil. It turned him on? She says, yes. Garrigo says, how old were you when you started this relationship with Mr. Combs? Got him. Butter her up. Time for the kill shot. You not 22-year-old Cassie. You're not 22-year-old Cassie. Or really 19 when he met Cassie at first. No way. You're 35. You're a cougar. You're a cougar. Stop playing. 35. Okay. What are your examples of fantasy talks in those rooms? Jane says he would have me and the entertainer being a role play. It was a cheating role play. That we would role play that Sean left town and I would be cheating on him with this man. That's odd. But anyway, Diddy would enjoy role play where the women would be cheating on him, but it's so odd because he would try to kill every nigga that she would actually cheat with him on. You know what I'm saying? His fantasy was role play like you cheating on me, act like I left town. But then when the girl cheated outside of those hotel nights, he would try to kill the nigga and her. How high were your heels? She said 6 or 7 inches, but usually I try to wear the 3 to 4 inch heels. He said, you said you wanted your child to be closer to your child's father. But did the father ever see the child? Jane says, what does that have to do with this? Wow. Remember, there's not an objection. Usually for that is usually objection, relevance. That's what objection, relevance. What's the relevancy of this question? The judge is usually going to say, they'll ask the defense attorney. The defense attorney will be like, hey, we're getting somewhere. We're laying a background, whatever. And they might be like, sustained or overruled. But AUSA hasn't jumped in. I'm wondering why. So, but she says herself, what does this got to do with anything? Garrigo says, who flew you weekly to Miami to see Mr. Combs? She says sometimes. I don't know who, but maybe she's talking about her baby daddy. Don't know. Garrigo says, we listened to 5 voice notes in which Mr. Combs sounded angry. But how many did he send you? He sent you thousands, right? She says yes. Garrigo says, why did you feel he was larger than life? She said there was a bright light around him. Jane says he introduced me to the gospel. He had a favorite pastor he'd like to watch on TV. Bishop T.D. Jakes, man. Come to the front of the congregation, gang. Has that stayed with you? Yes. Do you still watch that pastor today? Objection. Sustained. How much did Sean invest in your dress line? $20,000. Why did you even join OnlyFans? If I could get off of it, I would. But I needed financial help. So Mr. Combs gave you money throughout the relationship, right? In the 3.5 years. That's like about $150,000. Sound about right? I would assume. Okay. You told the government you gravitated towards providers. She says, yes, as a woman, I like that. You called the house our house. Jane says later, I saw it as my house. Garrigo says, you thought it was important that his staff not know about the entertainers, right? Objection. They overrule it. She says right. And that's the reason you go to the house, right? There's also a yard there for your son, right? Jane, she's defensive about her child. She's very defensive about her child. She says for your son, Jane, who is, you could tell, chat, she's on the stand sweating bullets because she knows some people have identified her as Daphne Joy. You see, she makes a correction. Don't gender my child as my son. Just say my child. Can you say my child? They did a break. Hold on. We should have more tweets. Holy. Wait, they took a break already? Wait, we ain't getting no tweets in what the fuck? In an hour.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, June 10th, it's the 20th day of U.S. versus Sean Combs. We've been going at it hard for 19 days, and yesterday was no exception. The witness known as Jane, and there are a lot of issues around this kind of growing credibility gap between, not credibility gap, just a gap between the reporting inside and the reporting outside. In any event, Jane did finish past 5 p.m. her direct examination, culminating in a violent incident in their home.
I heard G-Dep is in the chat. G-Dep, what up, bro?
Doors kicked off, and they remain off, as well as Combs apparently still paying for the house and for her lawyer. I don't know what the implications are. I'm sure it'll come out on cross, which we'll be covering as best as we can, and we're also covering these ICE arrests, ICE protests, ICE arrests. Yesterday, as we left the courthouse, there were scenes. Now, I have a question. This is a crowdsourcing. Some publication this morning said that there was a deployment of Marines inside the United States and from that place. So we keep reporting, and we've had law firms write to them to seek a dialogue on the First Amendment. They just don't even answer. So we have scoops. We've written the scoops of Cassie Day. It was huge. Saw the Diddy scene. Now, there was a kind of a dismissive AFP article about streamers and influencers. I mean, I don't know. I think it's not the platform, it's not the equipment that you use, it's the information that you're putting out, and unless that AFP reporter actually checked out these things, it seemed a little bit self-serving. Anyway, now we're coming up. There have been days. The Kid Cudi Day was huge out here. The Cassie Day, it was huge. Could be also that it's the rain. You can see across the street there, the tents have stayed up at night, and it's interesting that some people actually take shelter under the tents. Hang on, hang on, we might have a, There's a guy who's in front of 40 Foley that has a sign about his eviction, but tying it into a large conspiracy. In any event, you now have seen it. We're covering this case as fast as we can, and other things. To be continued.
Okay. Wow. Wow. We're sitting here waiting on some more tweets. Don't know what's happening. Okay. Don't know the exact thing that's happening right now, but there was some more audio that came out. Let's see. Where's the audio? Is it this?
We have with us a morning video message and the passport, and then
I think there was some more audio. Here we go. Anyway.
we have learned more text exhibits.
This is from yesterday, by the way.
These videos, they'll see it was consensual. Didn't she agree with that, or I might be completely wrong?
So Jane was kind of vocalizing just her displeasure of having to do these wild debauchery nights or hotel nights just with other men, that she always wanted to be having sex with her partner, and her partner being Sean Combs. So she messaged Diddy saying that you place these harmful men on me, and Diddy had responded, well, talk to God, I'm gonna pray for you, you're burning a bridge that you aren't prepared to pay for. And Jane said that in the text that she knew that she had consented to being on this tape, but she said she was uncomfortable, but she kept doing this because she loved Diddy, and that Diddy kind of even threw in her face that she appeared to be enjoying it. She appeared to be excited even while she was on these FREEKOFF tapes or these sexually explicit videos. And Jane says, well, I'm sorry, I want to feel better. And that was in reference to her just feeling uncomfortable throughout this entire process. And so Jane admitted while she was on the stand that she did watch her own Freekoff tapes. And she said that I was being high and following a pattern in the majority of these tapes. It was like watching the same show over and over again. And so this was kind of at a point in, I guess, her and Diddy's relationship where she was really just kind of telling him that she didn't want to be doing these hotel nights anymore, and that the videos were kind of thrown back into her face. But it seems like from her perspective, while she was on the stand, I should say, that she didn't feel as comfortable as maybe the video may have portrayed her to look as more comfortable and consenting in this process.
Yeah, I wonder how much the jury is going to wrestle with the idea. Did she vocalize enough her perceived lack of consent? You know, there was a part of it where she talked about in her notes app, she said she was having PTSD, but was that properly communicated to Sean Combs? It's important for a legal analysis. Now, there was another change in her testimony because she had testified she's having these problems with Sean Combs, right? They're back and forth on this. And then Cassandra Ventura files her lawsuit in November 2023. What was her reaction to Cassie's lawsuit? And what did she communicate to Sean Combs after that lawsuit came out?
And so I will say this about the prosecution when they were kind of laying this out to get eventually to Cassie's lawsuit, is they were kind of showing us piece by piece, month by month, all these text exhibits, or we were hearing about these text exhibits. The jury actually saw them, but just about how Jane was uncomfortable that, by doing these hotel nights, right? But then we get to Cassie's lawsuit, and I was really kind of surprised to hear Jane's reaction while she was on the stand about Cassie's lawsuit. Because even in reference before where her and Diddy would get in.
Okay, don't know what's happening with it looked like he's taking a break or something. All right, this was the arrivals for 2 days ago. It's been really rainy and kind of like gloomy in New York City. Who's that? Okay, that's the mom.
Yeah. Good morning, Mama Cone. You have a good day, Mama Cone.
Thank you.
Okay, she's responsive.
Thank you.
That was the mother? Mother.
Okay, let's see who else.
Oh, yeah.
Proper.
It's a bunch of lawyers.
At least break my stuff.
Yeah. I'm Chevy.
They broke into his house and opened his Christmas gifts. Isn't that crazy?
Why does it look like Matthew Russell right here?
At least break my stuff.
Yeah. But his Christmas gift?
Yeah.
Come on.
Just traumatized it.
Yeah.
Why explain the...
Like, no, not too hard. Just.
Now, I think Fox has a feed. I think the court's still going on, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, some people have stopped covering this. Wow. Fox 5 New York was covering this heavy. Yeah, their live coverage is just highway shit. Let me try to find you guys another feed. Give me a second. I'll have you keep watching this.
Kind of these verbal spats with one another where Jane would kind of throw out, I'm no Gina, I'm no Cassie. And so I thought, okay, well, once we get to Cassie's lawsuit, maybe she didn't have the nicest things to say about Cassie in reference to her lawsuit. But as far as Jane is concerned, it was actually the opposite of what I was initially thinking. So when we get to the part about Cassie's lawsuit, Jane was explaining that it was all over the place. I almost fainted. In fact, I think I did. And then Maureen Comia asked, well, why? And she says, because there were 3 specific pages that were just harrowing. And mind you, when Jane's on the stand, she is very soft-spoken. Sometimes when she's like testifying, I'm just kind of like, oh my goodness, I need to hear you a little bit louder. But she's very soft-spoken when she's on the stand. But Jane was explaining that she read the entire complaint and that she said these pages resembled my own experience.
We got CNN as a place that we could get some updates, right? So 27 minutes ago, they took a break. Jane was back on the stand. Oh, Jane's back on the stand. So, all right, so cool. Let's read what we missed. Okay. So, she didn't want the information leak. Jane confirmed that she and Combs didn't want anything about hotels to leak. She confirmed that it was important that the public didn't know about hotel nights and Combs' employees didn't know about the entertainers. Tenney says if they had done any hotel nights at Jane's previous apartment, she confirmed they had. So remember, Jane, who dated they agreed $10,000 a month. She was used on rent. Defense attorney Garrigo showed the jury text messages and audio message between Jane and Diddy from March 2023, right after a Turks and Caicos trip. She previously testified that during the trip, Combs sprung an entertainer on her and prompted an argument that threw things off for them for days. The two traded loving text messages and voice messages about how much fun they had. In Combs' voice note, he said he loved her. Combs also mentioned Jane's contract on the audio recording, which Jane testified was a reference to the love contract they brokered, which led to the $10,000 a month rent for her home. The jury heard an upbeat recorded response. Jane sent Combs telling him she had so much fun on the trip and loved him and felt closer to him. She said on the recording, everything just feels so good and I'm so happy. Jane testified that she did have fun with Combs and was expressing that she loved the time with him, excluding the time they spent with entertainers. Okay, so she would clarify that. She said, yeah, I had fun with him, but not the stuff that I do with the entertainers. Said Combs used rent money kind of as like a tool. Said Jane confirmed that when she moved into a rented home in April 2023, Diddy paid $40,000 up front to cover the security deposit, okay? And the rent for the first month and the last month. Defense attorney Garrigos pointed out that the landlord already possessed several months of rent payments in case Combs ever decided to stop paying rent. Garrigos suggested Combs indicated like he was also open to paying 3 more months of rent when they were about to break up. Garrigos asked Jane if she ever believed Combs would stop paying the rent. Said there was sometimes I definitely felt he would do that, and he used it kind of like a tool. The rent was always like a little reminder. He said Combs talked earlier of polygamous or polyamorous actually dating, but I wanted him to be mine, Jane says. Describing a time when Jane was still trying to get to know Diddy, she testified she was with him in Miami before he bought a pair of shoes, a Bottega Veneta bag, and a bracelet. During the trip, he explained to her that he led a polyamorous dating lifestyle. Jane said she didn't mind at first because they were getting to know each other, but it became difficult once she had deeper feelings for Combs. I was feeling my man and wanted him to be mine, she says. Jane also said she felt there was an imbalance in the treatment she got from Combs in comparison to how he treated his other girlfriends. Jane says, I didn't sign up to date a man that was in a public relationship. Jane says it became difficult for her when Diddy started spending time with Young Miami about 6 months to a year after they started dating. Combs and Young Miami had a public relationship that appeared to be monogamous and would post each other on social media. but Jane said her relationship with Combs was very private. It wasn't something I signed up for. I didn't sign up to date a man that was in a public relationship. 23 minutes ago, it said Combs wasn't taking care of himself. Jane says, as the defense suggests, she knew about the addiction early. On their first trip to Turks and Caicos, Jane suggested Diddy go to rehab in Thailand when she realized how the drugs was taking an effect on him, she testified. On the flights to Turks, she noticed his shaky hands, eyes and teeth, and coloring seemed off. I could tell he wasn't taking good care of himself, she said. Tenny Garagos suggested that Jane knew he was a drug addict from early on. In the beginning, I didn't really know how to label it, she said. I encountered someone who was overdoing the partying. As our relationship continued, I noticed a very strong pattern, and I still didn't even really label it as a drug addict. I think now I would say that, but then I wouldn't say that. I just thought he was a big party guy. Towards the end of the relationship, Jane learned Combs was taking antidepressants, she said. She confirmed she wanted him to get off drugs and back to his natural form. She testified that Combs had once told her he was interested in getting ketamine therapy. By the way, if homie comes back, let me know. Hasn't came back. Court took a break. They come back in. It said, this is a scene inside the courthouse. Diddy's mom, sister, 2 sons, they're in the courtroom. Remember, his daughters stopped coming. And Quincy hasn't came in a while. Pause. They're seated directly behind him. Mark Garagos is seated in one of the defense rows. He's watching his daughter, Tenny Garagos, question Jane on the stand. Combs smiled when Jane testified she'd like to give him foot massages and began nodding when she said, he was my baby. He also briefly spoke to the courtroom sketch artist. Again, Diddy is telling the sketch artist, you got me out here looking like a koala bear. Haven't you been in this motherfucking courtroom? You see how I fuck them bitches up? I'll do it to you. No, he ain't say that. But he's talking to the sketch artist because we even heard he's been upset at how they're drawing him. They're drawing him like a goofy. And nobody plays with Diddy like he's a fucking goofy.
Sean Combs has seen these sketches and he has some feedback. The disgraced music mogul told our sketch artist to soften it up because she is making him look like a koala. We'll break that down. Soft is how it appears Sean Combs' defense team has tried to portray Diddy to the jury during his sex trafficking and racketeering trial, seemingly trying to give off the vibes of a guy who would not say, quote, I'm the devil and I could kill you, like a witness alleged on the stand. Diddy has made heart symbols for his family. He smiled at members of the gallery as he's entered court, often wearing subtle colors, sweaters, and khakis instead of the flashy outfits that came with his larger-than-life persona. But his Puff Daddy the nice guy starting to fade. It's been reported that he's had some animated discussions with his lawyers, and his facial expressions led the judge to put his foot down. We have the bad boy body language breakdown. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Sketches and descriptions from our reporter biggest trials, and we've learned that Diddy has reportedly been taking in her art as well. Rosenberg, who sits in
How's Diddy seen this?
the front row of the courtroom, told Reuters that during
Oh, he probably could look over and see. I don't know.
a break last week,
Or maybe somebody's telling him.
Diddy came over to her and told her, quote, soften me up a bit, you're making me look like a koala bear. Art, of course, is all in the
Oh shit.
eye of the beholder. Rosenberg's sketches of Combs have, if anything, looked grayer, we've noticed, than the Diddy that many of us grew up watching, because since he's been in custody, which goes back to September of last year, Combs hasn't had access to the hair coloring products that he did on the outside. It's important to note he is 55 years old, so his hair is grayer and he also has a beard. Now, the day that Combs made that request to Rosenberg, it was the same day that the judge made it clear that he wants Diddy to cool it with facial expressions in the courtroom. The judge addressed the defense team and said, quote, I was very clear this morning that there were not to be any facial expressions, other attempts to have any interaction with the jury whatsoever, any influence on the jury whatsoever, and I could not have been clearer in terms of what I said. You heard me, right? And then he said, Well, there was a line of questioning where your client was nodding vigorously and looking at the jury. And there was a
Remember, he's back nodding again. Diddy is nodding when she says he was my baby. Remember, Diddy's smiling, he's nodding. I don't think it's his reaction. I think he's looking at the jury almost like trying to see, maybe in a way. Hold on. All right, here we got another tweet. Tanny Garrigo suggested that Tanny suggested that Jane told prosecutors she enjoyed just about every minute with Combs during hotel nights. Wow. By the way, you could tell she was going to be a defense witness, chat. So that's why they're looking at her to say, didn't you tell the prosecutors you love this? Said during hotel nights, the portion with me and him, yes, I love that part. She testified she would have some alone time for about 30 minutes to an hour before the entertainer came and after they left. And after that, she enjoyed when the two of them would make love. Jane confirmed that Combs had gave her the attention and affection she wanted during hotel nights. He's the most affectionate during these nights, adding that he wasn't generally that affectionate otherwise. Wow. Okay. Still waiting for another update from Mr. Inner City Press. He's taking a break, though.
Subsequent moment, we had a sidebar, and I looked and I saw your client looking at the jury and nodding vigorously during that line of questioning. That is absolutely unacceptable. And he wasn't done. The judge then said, it cannot happen again. If it happens again, if it happens even once, I will hear an application from the government to give a curated instruction to the jury which you do not want, or I will consider taking further measures which could result in the exclusion of your client from the courtroom. Now, I've talked with our reporter, Elizabeth Milner. She's been in the court every day for Law and Crime. She's been taking meticulous notes, and she's been observing Diddy and his body language and seeing how he's changed as this trial's gone on. And she says she believes that he still to this point looks very focused, that the stress of the situation, the frustration that he might be feeling hearing this blistering testimony from several government witnesses, it doesn't appear to be impacting him in the way that one might expect. She does say there has been a big difference in the way Diddy has acted since getting that talking to by the judge, because she says that no longer is Diddy looking at each juror as they enter the courtroom and leave the courtroom, which he has been doing since this trial started. But now it appears he is keeping his eyes.
Okay. How fitting. We have a page called P. Diddy Trial Updates, and they got it all. Let's see. So, we got a few more tweets here. So, when you met Combs in 2020, you were earning money as an Instagram influencer, right? She says, yes. You're also receiving $4,700 a month in child support, right? Yes. Once you were dating Combs, did your influencer work change? Yes. I couldn't focus on it anymore. Felt like I only reached about 10% of my earning potential during our relationship. When I moved into a new home in 2023, I thought if we got a place that met Sean's taste, maybe we could start doing hotel nights there. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So she wanted to do hotel nights in her own home instead of hotels. So you and Sean wanted to keep these hotel nights private, right? Yes. It was really important that nothing about the hotel nights got out. We didn't want the public to know, or even his employees. Garrigo says, have you done hotel nights at your previous apartment? Yes, we had. So one of the reasons you got the house was for hotel nights. And so your son could have a yard. He said, could you please say my child? Cool. Yo, whoever this is, yeah, we got to follow this person. They're on with it. They're on with it. They're right with it. Yeah, that's the defense trying to dox her. I'm showing the jury some of your text and audio message from your trip after Turks and Caicos. You testified earlier that he surprised you with an entertainer on hotel night, which caused an argument. Yeah, he did. It affected us for a few days. But in the messages you guys exchanged afterwards, you both sound affectionate. Didn't he tell you he loves you? Yes, in a voice note. He mentioned something about a contract. What was that? He was referring to a love contract. We agreed on it. He rented me a home for $10,000 a month. And your recorded message back to him, would you say you sounded happy? Yes, I told him I had so much fun on the trips. I felt closer to him. You said everything just feels good. I'm so happy. She says, that's right. I did have fun with him. I was expressing my love for the time we spent together, except the part involving the entertainers. When I moved to my rented home, April 2023, he paid $40,000 up front. Let's skip. He said, can you confirm your conversation you had Combs regarding your financial situation? He asked me, you need 3 months rent? I told him I was struggling a bit. And what happened after the conversation? I confronted him later about some things, and then out of the blue, he sent me $20,000. Was this money solicited by you in any way? No, I ain't asked for it. It was completely unsolicited. How did you use the $20,000 he sent? I bought some nice furniture for my place. The court heard you say you sent him a text after receiving the money. Can you describe the message? I texted him thank you, and I called him baby. I was just grateful for the help. So to clarify, you expressed gratitude and used an affectionate term, correct? Yes. The court heard a voicemail from Mr. Combs where he referred to you as a crack pipe. Can you explain what he meant by that nickname? It was just a playful thing from our trip to Turks and Caicos. We had a lot of fun, and he gave me a nickname. Crack pipe, okay. Well, he said he had an addiction to my texts. It was mutual, just fun banter. Garrigo says, how did you respond to this voicemail from Mr. Combs? So I texted him back, something like, crack pipe is so real for both of us. It's definitely mutual. I just like everything you said. I'm thankful. I had so much fun. Turk was incredible. I am happy. Garrigo, so your response was positive, expressing gratitude, enthusiasm about the trip and your nickname. Yes, exactly. I was happy to have fun with it. The trip was amazing, and I want him to know I appreciated it. To confirm, the exchange was lighthearted and reflected mutual enjoyment, right? Yeah, it was all in good fun. We were just joking around, enjoying the vibe from the trip. You mentioned things changed for Combs when he started spending time with young Miami. Yes, it became difficult for me. About 6 months to a year after we started dating. What made it difficult? Their relationship was public. They posted about each other all over social media. Meanwhile, with mine, it was very private. How did that make you feel? It wasn't what I signed up for. I didn't agree to date a man who was in a public relationship with someone else. So you testified about a trip to Miami when you were still trying to get to know Combs. Can you describe what happened during the trip? Yeah, I can. We're in Miami. He bought me a pair of shoes, bag, bracelet. During the trip, did Combs ever discuss his lifestyle with you? He says, yes, he led a polyamorous lifestyle. How did you react to the explanation of that at the time? At first, I didn't mind. We were just trying to get to know each other. But just wasn't a big deal. But did your feelings change over time? Garrigos asked. Yes, I developed deeper feelings for him. It became difficult. I was feeling my man, and I wanted him to be mine. Garrigos says, you also mentioned there was an imbalance between how he treated you compared to the other girlfriends. Could you elaborate, please? I just felt he treated me not the same how he treated his other women. Felt unequal. So to clarify about your concerns about the imbalance that arose as your emotional attachment to him grew, it says, oh no, it felt unequal. So to clarify your concerns, I guess she says yes. Let's talk about your first trip to Turks. What did you observe about him? She's mentioned the drug stuff. We read that already. Did you suggest something to him? Go to a rehab center in Thailand. Did you know early on he was a drug addict? In the beginning, I did not know how to label it. Anyway, let's keep it going. Did you know he was on any prescription medication? Toward the end of the relationship, I found out he was taking antidepressants. Did you want him off drugs? Yes, I want him to return to his natural form. He even told me once that he was interested in taking ketamine therapy. They called for a break. Mark Garrigos is in court, seated behind. Okay. They're back. Miss Daphne, would you agree that you willingly participated in this so-called hotel nights? At the time, yes. I felt I had to keep the relationship. But no one forced you, though, to take part, right? Nah, not physically. You were aware that Mr. Combs practiced a polyamorous lifestyle? Jane says he told me early on, yes. Yet you chose to stay in a relationship with him for some time. I did. My feelings for him grew deeper. And during that time, he supported you. Paid your rent, gave you gifts, covered expenses. Yes, he did all of that. Would you say he was kind of generous at times? Yeah, he could be generous. So your relationship, though complicated, had moments of affection and mutual agreement. It did. But it doesn't mean it didn't feel hurt or feel controlling. During the hotel nights, did you and Mr. Combs spend time alone together? Yes, we'd have about 30 minutes to an hour before the entertainer came and afterwards too. How'd you feel about that time? I enjoyed it. Especially when we made love. That part felt intimate. So he gave you the attention you were seeking. Yes, he gave me the affection I wanted during those nights. Was it typical of him? Nah. Wasn't really that affectionate, but those nights he was the most affectionate. Was red lights and baby oil used during hotel nights? No. They weren't only exclusive to those nights. Ooh, okay, that's helping the defense. What else was used? Oh, where else were they used? He used them on our other sexual encounters, even in his private residence. Were you aware that the hotel nights were being filmed? Yeah, I was okay with it. Seems like she might be a Trojan horse, Chad. She's copying a couple things. Or maybe she's just being honest, who knows? And Mr. Combs told you the video was just for the two of y'all, right? That's what he said. You put on a good show for him in the videos because you knew he would watch them again and again, right? Yep. Is it true you enjoy watching or rewatching hotel nights with Mr. Combs? That's not true. I didn't like that part. But you still did it though, right? Yeah. It was just part of the relationship, something I tolerated. Even if it made me feel uncomfortable. Interesting.
Forward and in some ways being on his best behavior. She said that Diddy's now looking at the judge, the witness on the stand, and passing notes with his attorneys, and again, no longer taking the time to make eye contact with the jurors as they enter and leave the courtroom. Before we get back to the latest from the courtroom in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, I want to bring you a law and crime legal alert, because if you received a Depo-Provera birth control shot and were later diagnosed with a smorgasbord from how Diddy is looking and the expression that may be on his face during some very difficult moments. Take a look at this sketch here. This is as Diddy was listening to a witness talk once again about the infamous 2016 assault on his ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel. And this is a sketch of Diddy looking at video that CNN released in 2024 that millions of people saw, and it has played a big role for the government in this trial, and it's come up multiple times. And you can see his hand on his head. We'll talk a little bit about what that body language may say in just a moment. On Friday, Combs also reportedly had an animated discussion with his defense team during a break from the testimony of a victim going by the pseudonym Jane. Jane talked about some drug-fueled sex events that she called hotel nights, and reportedly they left her with urinary tract infections and needing antibiotics. Now, to this point, it's been reported that Diddy has been very involved with his defense team, that he's had these animated discussions before, and he's often passed notes back and forth during testimony. It does appear that Diddy has tried to play the role more of a grandfather than a music mogul. His outfits fit more with Mr. Rogers than the Sean Combs who used to be the head of Sean John. We've often seen Diddy in court wearing sweaters and khakis with subtle tones like beige instead of flashy suits. There have also been cases where Diddy's tried to appear like a nice guy. He's walked into the courtroom looking at his family members in the gallery and giving them heart hands. As animated as he's been with his defense team, he's also greeted them often with big hugs to start the day, like this sketch that we got on Friday. But now, more than a month into a trial that could put Diddy in federal prison for the rest of his life, what does his most recent body language episodes tell us about how he may be feeling things are going in this trial, as several government witnesses have accused him of rape, of violence, of even arson, and several other crimes. Combs' trial is expected to last several more weeks. He is charged with racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He has pleaded not guilty. Joining us once again to help break down the body language of Sean Diddy Combs during this trial is Susan Constantine, a body language expert. Great to see you again. Thanks for coming on Law and Crime. First, I just want to know your reaction to Sean Combs reportedly asking the sketch artist to soften things up a bit, and he thinks he's being drawn like a koala. What do you make of that?
Well, it's interesting, his perception of how he sees himself. So obviously, how he sees himself and how he actually appears are two different things. So if he wants to appear more like a koala, I guess, or he's saying that he looks too much like a koala, either one, he's not happy with the way he's appearing. And the reason why he doesn't...
Yo, it looks like Diddy's really micromanaging this trial. And I got to give him some credit. I mean, he's taking control of his own, future. Okay? All right. There is an update. This is from CNN, though. Jane confirmed there was few occasions where Diddy Combs ended a hotel night early when she vocalized she wanted to stop. She testified there was a few rare occasions when Combs agreed to dismiss an entertainer when she wasn't attracted to or comfortable with them, but only after she tried to have sexual interactions with the men for a period of time. Garagos tried to suggest that Combs readily agreed to dismiss the men when she wasn't comfortable, but Jane pushed back, saying she had to endure sexual interactions at first. Okay, getting some more tweets. Tenny says the judge, she may pause the cross at 3 to give the jurors a break. She'll pick up back on Wednesday and continue to Thursday. Okay? So they're trying to complete the cross by Thursday. Let's see if we can get some legal analysis from Bradford Cohen says this motion has zero chance of being granted. This is after they said we want a mistrial based on the Banner testimony that didn't happen, or the event that didn't happen, the dangling over the balcony. According to Bradford Cohen, he says this has zero chance of being granted. These are filed based on witness testimony. Let's break it down. The defense says the last witness, Cassie, friend, says Sean Combs hung her over the balcony. Well, the defense has proof that Sean couldn't have done it on that date. He was in New York, not in L.A. Usually this is for a cross to discredit a witness and say she doesn't know what she's talking about. Now, if the government knew that it was impossible on that date for the event to happen and did nothing to verify, there might be an issue. So they're saying that if the government knew that this was a lie, so if someone goes up there and lied, the government can't stop them. But and if they get exposed, good. But if the government knew they were going to lie, that's a problem. It says there might be an issue, but this is not enough for a mistrial to be granted. Mainly, this is for appellate purposes and to preserve the record. Yeah, remember I keep telling you, objecting and these motions, this is how you preserve the record. The government will blow it off by saying, well, it happened, just not positive about the date, but it doesn't make it a false statement. You can bet if it was a defense witness, they would be having a shit fit. Basically saying if they had exposed someone that the defense brought up there like that, they would be probably trying to pursue charges. Interesting.
Downtown New York for day 20 of the Diddy trial, and yesterday we had some fascinating testimony from Jane. Now, Jane is a girlfriend of Diddy, at least that's her pseudonym. She was his girlfriend between 2021 and 2024. She was with Diddy on the very day that the scandal of the Intercontinental video being released came out. So she was there when Diddy learned that the whole world saw the surveillance video footage of him throwing Cassie Ventura to the floor, kicking her repeatedly and trying to drag her down the hall. And what was so interesting is that she talked about the damage control operations that were going on in Diddy's house. Now, she was not there for all the discussion. She said that she was disgusted by Diddy. She couldn't eat when she saw it. They showed her a statement that they had written for Diddy to make, and she was pleased with it, but then she had to leave. And when she got back home, she was disappointed with the final statement. And what was the difference between the two statements? Well, the initial statement actually apologized to Cassie, and the final statement, he didn't do that. What was also interesting is that we learned that Agnifilo, who is currently the lead for Diddy's defense counsel, was with Diddy on that very day. And the reason the statement was changed, and what he said to the court when he was arguing about the omission of certain statements from Jane, what he was arguing is you have to take out all this testimony where she's talking about how she's disappointed. Because the reason she's disappointed is because he doesn't reference Cassie in his final statement. But that was my legal advice to him, that he can't mention it because at the time she was in the middle of testifying to a grand jury, and I thought that it would potentially be very legally damaging for him to actually reference Cassie. That's why he changed the statement. And that's why she now is disappointed in that statement, but that he was acting under the advice of counsel, and that's privilege. Ultimately, the judge disagreed with him, and the judge was probably correct about that. I go into detail about that, explaining that on my video that I went through full Diddy coverage yesterday. I urge you to check that out if you want to see the back and forth exchange as to how this whole thing went down, because it's not just a great story, but it's also a great assessment as to the shrewd strategy, both by the defense and the state, as to how they handle this entire affair. I'm Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. If you like more of this content, please like.
Diddy trial, I heard you was up there, yo.
I went to the court. You know, I had to see for myself, brother. You know, for me, being as petty I could be sometimes, I wanted to just see his face. I wanted to see him in that circumstance, in that situation. Everything that he always done to people, got away with it, it just came back and it's hitting him in a crazy way to see him right there. The government is about to take everything that he's gained, everything that he owns.
Diddy trial, I heard you was up there, yo.
I went to the court. You know, I had to see for myself, brother. You know, for me,
Diddy is my father. It's the most disgraceful thing in my life. My sisters and I left the courthouse.
No, this is fake. This is fake.
Yeah, Puffy. Buddy.
This Hawaiian from Philly crashed out after randomly getting called a rat.
Okay. Is it
Week 5? Why didn't you do it? So that's really what I was saying. If it's about he blocked the door, okay, we're talking about a different thing, physical restraint. But if it's just mental, which a lot of this was, you know, I quoted the singer that Shia LaBeouf was with, FKA Twigs, I think is her name. And I read her quote, which said, I could have left any time I wanted to. I had a townhouse in London that I could have gone to, and I said, then why am I reading about this? If you could have done that, why didn't you do it? So that's really what I was saying. It's certainly not excusing Diddy. I went to great lengths to say how much I thought he should be in jail. I don't know what kind of criminal he is, Harvey. I know that's your big theme is, are they going to get him on what they're charging him with? But even if they don't get him on that, they ought to get him on something.
Well, but you did say that if you want a #1 record, you make a deal with the devil sometime.
At 8 o'clock at night, because the police were there to tell her 3 daughters, 9, 8, and 5, had just been suffocated by the husband.
Framing, if you will. Good to meet you, Bill. And I appreciate you pointing out that what Diddy's done is quite horrible and he should suffer some consequence.
Up on our site. 45% of the people agreed with him. That's a huge number. I'm wondering if what Bill says is kind of resonating with the jury.
It is, because if you don't think there are some women jurors from New York City, really as tough as they get, in my opinion, where I'm from, by the way, that are going to see it the way Bill sees it, which is like, you had a choice. Once this happened once, twice, you could have left. And I'm sorry, everything Bill's saying is right, because understand this. I'll go back to this. I keep repeating this. But all these issues with Cassie Ventura, for example, let's start with her, where she didn't leave, as Bill just said. She kept coming back for more because it was enhancing her career, or she believed it would. She never went to the police. She went to a money lawyer 10 years later. She tried to get money. She tried to write a book. She got $20 million. According to her text messages contemporaneous with these horrific incidents that she testified to at trial, we're making it look like this was a great relationship, contemporaneous. Now, you could say, oh, Stockholm Syndrome, all these different excuses. But I will say one thing to you. Had none of this existed, had Cassie tried to leave, had the text messages been saying, you're a brutalizer, you raped me, you did all these things to me, as opposed to I love you, I want to come back to you, I miss you, whatever, all these points would have been, a bastion of proof for the prosecution. And everyone on this panel would have been saying, oh my God, he's so guilty because she did all these things contemporaneous. She went to the police. Her text messages are consistent. She tried to leave, but he restrained her physically. None of that happened. And so it's fair game to say she's not, unless you think she's a complete moron or was absolutely brainwashed, completely brainwashed, where she couldn't even make her own choice.
Can I ask a question,
By the
Joe?
way, she's the one who initiated some of these freak-offs. She's the one who, by the way, she also gave it back to him a few times. Apparently, there were instances of domestic violence from her to him. Not saying that excuses anything he did. He is a proven criminal. He's a proven bad guy. He's a proven domestic batterer. No question. It's not
Can I ask you a
racketeering.
question, Joe, in good faith? I want to ask you a question, my dear. Do you think in order for a victim, a pure victim, to be listened to, believed, and considered in this construct, do they need to be a perfect victim? Do they need to be perfect?
Of course
Real
not.
question.
There's no such thing as a perfect victim.
Well,
But when
no, I think what you
start
laid
adding
out
up
would have
all
been a
the
perfect
issues-
victim.
But if you start adding up all the issues, just all of them, there's 3 or 4 with Cassie Ventura.
But even Bill Maher said, but Joe, even Bill Maher said he didn't believe that the text messages were sincere. He even was able to hold the space for the fact that that was likely the result.
That's just one thing. But Bill Maher came to a conclusion that she could have left. Don't you think 45% of the...
Yeah, that's a good point, Chad. The point that is going to be of discussion is, why didn't these people walk away? The idea, and I know I was making a point, some people didn't like it earlier, is the financial coercion enough to say, now I granted, you know why the defense is trying to dox 50 a bit, right? Or dox Jane. They're trying to just bring up the fact that you were 35 years old when you got in a relationship with this man. You can't act like you were some young girl who got used to a lifestyle that you couldn't let go mentally, and you were down to do whatever to keep it. You were down to essentially try your best to keep this thing, but it's not because you didn't have other options. If you're saying it was only because of the money, isn't your baby father a millionaire or a billionaire, maybe close to it? That's what they bring up. You were getting child support. You were getting money from your influencer job. You aren't as desperate as it seems. Okay?
Pollsters came in.
I can't wait to see what the jury. You know what?
All you need is one juror. All you need is one juror who's going to say, oh,
yeah, I was
come
going to say, you and I both know pollsters, a verdict don't make. I look forward to the jury.
Bill, I know you have to leave. I have 2 questions for you. I'm fascinated to know what you think of the racketeering charge in particular against Diddy.
Well, I mean, I get all my information about this from you. So I
know this to be a fact as somebody who served on a board for domestic violence and child abuse victims for 6 years here in New York City, Safe Horizon. What if I told you, Bill, that the most dangerous time...
Sex trafficking
I like my man Taco Pina.
and racketeering.
That was
Hey,
sex
Joe.
trafficking. He
Joe,
was
you know who we can compare it to, though? You know who we could
What?
compare it to? R. Kelly, who also got locked up on RICO.
Minors.
He got convicted of
Minors.
RICO.
Those were minor. What they? Ebony,
But why
wasn't
don't
minors?
you compare him to Keith Raniere?
Come on,
Why
Joe.
don't you? These were grown-ass women and grown-ass men who could have left that cult at any time and didn't because they were under a psychological, financial, and physical control of him. It's the same pattern that we're seeing, attested to in the Diddy
jealous
courtroom.
lunatic going
And
crazy.
some-
Keith Raniere was someone
some of
who
R.
they looked
Kelly's
at like as a
victims
Jim
were
Jones
majority
figure.
age, Joe. And
Like
you
a
That's
cult
how they
leader.
look at Diddy. They look at Diddy as a god. They
No,
said
they
it.
didn't look
Many
at
of them
Diddy
have
as a cult
testified he
leader.
was a god.
They looked at him as a guy who could
No.
advance their careers. Come on.
No.
Guys, is it a good idea for prosecutors to introduce sex tapes? Because there is a buzz now that they are either considering it or made a decision to do it. Would it make sense for the prosecutors to show these freak-offs? Because I don't know which way it cuts.
I think they are. It's just under seal. And they're not shown to the gallery. I thought they were, or they have. They've showed pictures, though.
They've already shown a few.
Yeah, they've already shown
Doesn't
some
make sense, Ashley. He's saying, I don't know, Harvey. It's a good question. I haven't seen them. Even though I did speak with Diddy and consult with him, I have not seen those tapes. I've been told, and I don't know, unless I see them, I can't opine, but I've been told they're just like sort of weird, but nothing so insanely graphic, right? That no one's getting hurt, no one's being bound or gagged or anything like that. They're just like this guy watching 2 other people have sex. It's strange, it's weird. Again, I don't know if that really advances the ball here. What advances the ball is car bombing people's cars, threatening people, if they don't do something, he's going to harm them. That's advancing the ball. Showing these tapes, telling about his baby oil, talking about his applesauce on hamburgers, I don't know if that advances the racketeering case here at all.
Ashley?
Well,
Okay, we are going to get into some more tweets. I wanted to, like, again, I'm not sidestepping on topics. I just want to, let me touch on a topic real quick. And Drill, you could cut this for, that we're not just doing Diddy topics. Yo, did y'all see last night the BT Awards went down? Okay, so the BT Awards went down last night, right? Kai Cenat, you know, is streaming the whole thing, right? They had a bunch of streamers there, but Kai Cenat specifically, who is one of the biggest streamers. There was a moment where Kai Cenat runs into Wale the rapper, except he didn't know who he was. He didn't recognize him. This is a moment here. Now, I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to say it again. I hope nobody, and I know what the reaction is going to be with me saying this, even though I'm saying it out of place of honesty. Okay? I'm saying this out of place of honesty, but I know people are going to be like, yo, you're Asian content creators. It's the YN's turn right now, and you're hating. They're going to say I'm hating, but I'm not hating. I just want to be very blunt. Hip-hop is doing way too much dick riding of streamers. Let me just be very correct. And again, I'm not hating. I know y'all gonna think I'm hating. I promise you I'm not hating. The streamer community, which I'm part of that too. I'm just not that big over there. I'm bigger on the hip-hop side. The streamer community don't give a fuck about y'all rappers. I want y'all to be very clear. It don't matter if they come to stream your event, the BT Hip Hop or Awards. I want to see what these ratings look like. They're probably going to come out today. Hopefully went up a little bit. It's been down in the dumps, but Kendrick did show up. Kendrick showed up for the first time in like 10, 15 years. People and kids who watch streams, you will never get them to leave Kai's stream to come watch your shit. I've been saying this for the longest. There has to be different ways of collaboration happening. And I'm not speaking necessarily to this Wale interaction. I'm speaking about hip-hop is dick riding streamers. But they're thinking there's a crossover. There is no crossover. I'm telling you it's no crossover. It don't matter if they stream your album. Them niggas is not clicking off. They're consuming Kai Cenat. They're not consuming you. Okay? Also, the streamers are bigger than the average rapper. This is like a humbling moment. Kai doesn't need to know Wale. Kai's never said he's a hip-hop aficionado, even though his platform and the size would make him qualified to be a hip-hop platform or whatever you might want to call it. He could do whatever he wants. I know Wale was probably like, what the hell? Now, he didn't see this at first, but you have 300,000 people watching Kai. I want to be very precise on what that means. Kai's audience is 300,000 people. They're never going to BT. And that's another thing, BT. They're never coming to you. The people watching Kai watch on Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. They'll never say, okay, let's put our smartphone away. Let's put our iPad away. Let's turn on linear TV. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. However, it does make it pop for a day on social media. Like, this shit was lit yesterday. For me, I'm watching like a mishandling of what could be. I'm watching failing platforms thinking that the newer platforms give a fuck about them. BT. Kai and Speed could stream y'all event. At the end of the event, they're going to watch the replay on Kai and Speed's channel. Nobody's going to BT. I'm sorry to tell y'all. Same with y'all rappers. Y'all, when y'all go live, when y'all high off y'all weed, y'all in the studio making a bunch of garbage, there's only 4,000 people watching you. You get on Kai's stream, there's 120,000 people watching you. You think that eventually you're going to cross over that audience to you. Newsflash. 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 Unless y'all about to come into streaming, it doesn't work like that. Streaming is one of the, it's the greatest conundrum. You're going to see articles written about this soon because it's hard to mobilize that audience to care about anything but streams. It's hard. I guarantee. I know this. And again, I hope nobody's taking it as I'm lying. I'm not lying. Kai is amazing. He's the best. He's the greatest ever. But all of these people, you know what this reminds me of? Is when Spotify was giving out deals to everybody. Yo, you're popping. Let's get a deal. No. Shit, even these days, I'm just trying to learn how to mobilize y'all. Yo, I got a live show. I know, shit, yo, you know what it says right here? I got 23,000 people. Yo, I got a live show. I only need 500 of y'all to buy tickets. It's my birthday. Okay, finally. Okay, we good. But the point of what I'm saying is that the streaming audience isn't easily mobilized like other audiences. What we're going to realize, and we'll see it in about a year. Trust me, it's like the Oracle. All of these people, they're going to either have buyer's remorse or they're going to be like, we didn't gain anything from it. And this is where I'm happy for Kai. Because as a streamer, you benefit from this. You're now around these celebrities, but I'm going to be honest with you. People who watch Kai, I hate to tell y'all labels, y'all, you know, especially like MTV and BET, nobody gives a fuck about your television station. I'm pretty sure you showed half of Kai's audience a TV remote. They're like, what is this? They did use to their phone. They're not leaving the platform. Now, I have an idea, but I don't think it will work because you have to blow up entire industries. It's $1 billion problem. Kai cannot, and again, I have to say I'm not hating. Kai give you a stimmy for the day. He can't make your station pop. Niggas, like, after last night, niggas is still back watching Kai. They're never gonna BT. Here's my solution. BT and all these other people, even rap, y'all labels who think, yo, we're gonna go let's put our rapper in the booth with Max. Now it's gonna really sell the album. Max's audience love Max. I mean, Max's audience is a little bit more music related, so that works a little bit more. But Kai or Speed, they fuck with music, but bro, people love Kai for Kai. They love Kai for Kai, my nigga. So here's the solution, but it won't happen because it's too costly. Stop bringing Kai to BT, and BT, you come to where Kai's at. That's what you got to do. What does that mean? You're trying to take his audience and convert it to linear, to more people paying for a cable subscription or maybe a online streaming subscription for BT Plus or whatever y'all call it. Won't happen. What y'all need to do, BT, go get a Twitch channel. That's what y'all need to do. Not necessarily a Twitch channel, but if y'all realize, and by the way, also, here's the thing too. This is another thing. There's advertisers and people like TV stations. They're trying to value what the average worth of the eyeballs on, say, a streamer's platform is worth. What does that mean? It means when they have, let's think about people who historically on TV used to sell a lot of, or used to make a lot of money. They always say, like, say Fox News or CNN, Tucker Carlson was making a lot of money. Anderson Cooper, like, whatever. The reason why that is that how it works is that those time slots, prime time, you hear that a lot. Prime time means more money and more eyeballs that have purchasing power is going to be there. I don't know yet if it's proven that, yes, Kai's generating, look, by the way, again, it's no hate, this is business. Kai has 131,000 subscribers. That's $5 per person. That's over $500,000. His subscription revenues generating. You add to it all the ads and everything else, a couple $1 million per month, right? If you extrapolate it and you look at how TV works, TV isn't necessarily off eyeballs. They target demographics. It's a reason why their best and most important shows come on when people are off work, and they strategically place ads at places on shows where people who they feel have higher earning potential and purchasing power will be. Again, this is why I'm watching this constant mix. By the way, I love it for the streamers. The streamers should milk the shit out of it, because the problem with BT, every year they keep going down and down and down. Maybe this year they'll stagnate or go up a little bit, and that'll be good. Actually, they'll probably go up a good amount because Kendrick was there. Yeah, Kendrick was there. Kendrick moves the needle. Yeah. But I only say that to say, rappers, and this is not towards Wale, y'all are starting to look a little bit down bad. Y'all are starting to look a little bit down bad. Because Kai Cenat, Speed, whoever the streamers are, including myself, and again, I'm small on that streamer totem pole, can't save you. Y'all need to figure out a model instead of thinking you need to placate to a streamer. Because what happened after this clip was Wale confronting Kai. And it wasn't aggressive, but he said, bro, you know I'm making it look crazy. Now, respectfully, Wale, I love you. This made you look the craziest. You're a Grammy Award-winning rapper, been on so many tours. You're a phenomenal artist. This was what made you look crazy. Because here's the thing. We're seeing it in real time. And this is what I've always said. Kids run the entire industry. They might not have the purchasing power, but attention is power. Like I always joke, NBA YoungBoy, his fan base, they the PS4 crowd. But it's so many of them. So now the entire industry looks at NBA YoungBoy as a certain. NBA YoungBoy, sales-wise, doesn't do much, but stream-wise, he does. So anyway, to make a long story short, I know we got some shit to do, but my point is this. I think linear TV, shows like BT, and also the rap community, labels, and I see the labels, and by the way, I'm speaking out against shit. They throw me the bag for the streamer shit too. I'm good. So I'm not saying nothing that, I hope there's no way you could misconstrue like, oh, act feel it. No. The bag continues, okay? The bag continues. But I do have to say, as a fan of hip-hop, it is a little bit like y'all are looking a little down bad. Maintain your aura, please. Maintain your aura a little bit, please. My solution, stop placating and almost, it's like you're begging for these streamers' fans to come fuck with you. If anything, go do what DDG did. Just go to where they at. Now, DDG's an enigma because DDG is a content creator all throughout. But I'm watching rappers. Yo, Wale is a 10-year, 15-year veteran. He looked like a SoundCloud rapper right here. I'm sorry. And Wale, I'll fuck with you. Me and you talk recently. I'm not trying to disrespect you, bro. But I'm saying this to say, streaming is a great, amazing thing with a huge fan base. And I hope rappers start thinking in a different way how to capitalize off that. Not chase it for approval. I hope that made sense. And I hope you don't take that and say, oh, Ak is hating because, you know what I mean, he not Kai. I hope you don't take it as that. And even if you do, fuck it. I don't know what to tell you. But I think I made a lot of sense in trying to say there is beautiful synergy among music and streamers when it's both sides given. This is the handshake that should happen with music and streamers. For a long time, people like content creators were ignored because like, you ain't nobody. Now, Kai gets to get that cosign. Remember I told you I went on Everyday Struggle for the cosign. He gets a cosign. He's sitting next to Snoop Dogg. He gets to sit next to Snoop Dogg. That's lit. You look at Kai and be like, that's that nigga right there. Good. But when I'm watching rappers, it's like they don't know how to deal with that or properly benefit from it. That's a problem. Kai, and again, that's why I'm loving it for the streamers, but I'm looking at it for the rappers. Some of y'all looking down bad. And this is not only a Wale thing. I'm just saying, it's making y'all look either irrelevant, it's making y'all look lesser than, and also at times, y'all got to understand the era of what streaming is. Most of this shit is for clips. This is all for clips. So that's a clip that is going to last longer and be more influential than people saying, oh, let's go check this guy out. I'll back up from this point and I'll get back to the Diddy trial.
Interviewed Sean Deering last night on my show, and he goes by the sexy name of Skylar when he's doing his male prostitution. And he was with Diddy and Cassie, I think he said about a dozen of these FREEKOFF episodes. He said in the beginning, it seemed like Cassie was into them. Towards the end, things had palpably changed. He said she was going through the motions. It looked like she was controlled. And then when Diddy left the room and he tried to talk to her, she was terrified and told him, shh, not till he comes back. And so Skylar, this guy, Sean Deering, changed his opinion of whether Cassie was under the control and doing things that she really didn't want to do.
Brianna Bongalin testified that Diddy dangled her over a 17th floor balcony and that he said, you know what the fuck you did? And she was asked, what was he talking about? She said, I don't know. I'm not trying to be cute here, but to me, that left the jury hanging. It's what exactly are they trying to prove here? I mean, I understand that's a crime for sure, but what are they trying to prove if they can't say what it was about? I was real. Armand, I was confused by that.
I think it was clear that they were trying to prove that this guy, it's the Powell-on effect. It's the Powell-on. All these women, he's beat them, he's manipulated them. That's that whole controlling of their mind, the psychological warfare that he puts them through, which to me would lead into the RICO that they're trying to prove. So for me, I think this was just an add-on. But the only thing is that defense team is so good that they were able to almost insinuate that her and Cassie set up and strategically planned this whole balcony situation for her to ultimately get a $10 million payoff, hopefully in the future with a civil suit. And so that's what kind of, to me, left everybody hanging, because Nicole Westmoreland went up there and made her look like, wait, so you and Cassie discussed this from who was going to be there, how it was going to be set up, whether it was going to be at the house or at your apartment, or was it like who was actually going to be in the room, what time of day it was going to be. Like the way that she was questioning and angling the question and the girl was only able to say yes or no made you almost feel like, well, did they sit and write this down?
I got a different opinion. I got a feel that they were trying to clarify Cassie's memory was, I think it happened at my apartment, or I think it happened at a hotel. And Bono was saying, no, it happened at your apartment. They were both pretty high. They'd been doing drugs all night with another friend. But I think they also dangled something that made more sense about that whole open, why would this have happened? This whole dangling me over a balcony, you know what the F you did. And they suggested, that the defense attorney suggested that you hooked up with Cassie, meaning you may have had a lesbian relationship and maybe Diddy was jealous and angry about it. But they shut that down. It was a sustained objection. And so I think that the possibility here is that they're going to crucify Bono for saying these things. But at the same time, she's got receipts. She actually went to the doctor. She actually went to the chiropractor. The chiropractor actually demanded, who did this to you? And she said, I would not say. I was too afraid. So it wasn't as though this was just a total phantom event that they came up with. Something happened to her. She was thrown around and she had bandages and she had terrible bruising that she took. And they're contemporaneously stamped with a time.
Hey, Brian Andrews, our TMZ producer, was inside the courtroom. Brian, what was the jury's reaction?
Jurors were shown a text message with metadata in it. It was a picture of one of Bonna's injuries, and it showed that she was in Los Angeles at the time. And then up came a receipt from the Trump Hotel in New York City under the name of Frank Black, ordering hundreds of dollars of room service on the same day, to which Diddy defense lawyer Nicole Westmoreland said, two people can't be in two different places in the country at the same time. And then she went on to finish her interchange with Bonna by saying, you were hoping for a $10 million payday.
Okay. We got some more tweets here. The inner city press ever come back? Nope. Okay. So we got a few more tweets. Here we go. Here we go. All right, where is it? Jesus Christ. Okay. So they came back. She said she willingly participated. He told her about the polyamorous relationship, that she said she was cool with it, but later her feelings got deeper. Then they talk about him paying her rent. He could be very generous with her, whatever. During hotel nights, did y'all spend time alone? 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after. She said she enjoyed it. They made love. He wasn't affectionate, but on those nights he was. He says they got the crib. They got her the $10,000 crib that they could do freak-offs in the crib. Okay? Diddy told her, yo, the video is just for me and you to see. He said, isn't it true you enjoy watching? She said, nah, I ain't enjoying watching that shit. Tenny told him, yo, we're going to pause the cross at 3 to give the jurors a break, but she'll pick up on Wednesday. We'll continue to Thursday. Garrigo says, let's talk about the hotel nights. What was your understanding of why he wanted them? He said, they were driven by his desires. I label it as cuckold. A man turned on by watching his woman have sex with another man. That term was spot on. Garrigo says, well, why did you participate? She says, out of love. I wanted to please him. Did Mr. Combs ever explain his motivations? He liked to call it was voyeurism. I use the word cuck for myself. Jane says, I think there might be some bi-curiosity involved. Cucks can be curious, but too afraid to act on it. Ooh, so she's accusing Diddy of wanting that schmeat. That schmeat. You know that schmeat? Garrigo says, did you ever stop at a hotel night because you wanted to? She said, yes. There were a few times he ended early when I spoke up and I said I wanted to stop. And if you were uncomfortable or comfortable with one of the men, did he dismiss? If you weren't comfortable with the men, would he dismiss them? Rarely. Only if I tried to interact with them sexually for some time. But was he responsive when you were uncomfortable? No, not readily. So it doesn't look like she's really getting Diddy's back. She was like, he would let me fuck them niggas. I had to go through the motions first before he considered letting them go. So let's talk about the 2 times you cried after the hotel night. Do you remember the first? Jane says yes. It was early in the relationship. I cried because Sean was about to leave right after the hotel night. So when did you ask him to stay with you? Change his plans. He stayed to comfort me. The second time, we were in the shower together. This was somewhere in the middle of a relationship. I started crying after another hotel night. Was Combs high on ecstasy at the time? He said he was. He told me, you gonna ruin my high. And he was too high to see me cry. Garrigo says, let's go back to your earlier testimony. The hotel nights, or as you call them, freak-offs. She says, yes. You described these nights as being driven by Mr. Combs, right? She says, yes. But there were moments that weren't there where you had to say how things played out. What? There were moments he wasn't there? Oh, no. There were moments, weren't there, that you had a say in how things played out. She says, there were a few times I voiced what I wanted or didn't want. Was it entirely your input? No, not always. Sometimes I'd be able to speak up, though it didn't change the outcome. Garrigos, Let's go over some of the messages between you and KK, Christina Karam. These were sent around the time he allegedly asked you to bring drugs to Miami, correct? Garrigo says, no, she says yes. Daphne says yes. Garrigo says you testified earlier you had a phone conversation with Ms. Karam, during which she told you it was fine to bring drugs and even instructed you to put them in your checked luggage. Is that true? Yeah. But the messages we read here today, they don't mention anything of her saying anything like that. Do they? No, they don't. We spoke on the phone. She said it verbally. Garrigo says, when Ms. Karam traveled with Combs, do you know if she flew on a private jet? Jane said, I assume she did, but I can't say for sure. Garrigo says, would you describe your relationship with her as close? Jane says, no, not at all. We weren't close. She didn't like me. Garrigo says, how did that affect your relationship with Mr. Combs? Jane says it made things hard. She was always with him. I believe she had strong opinions about me, and these opinions influenced how Sean treated me. So according to Jane, Christina Karam didn't like her. That made things hard. And he says she was always with him, but she had strong opinions about her. And those opinions would influence how Diddy treated her. Wow. They called for a lunch break. Yeah, I think he was fucking KK. Somebody says KK was a queen.
Is because you can see his nonverbal communication is not positive. You know, the scowls, the smirks, the furrowed eyebrows, the clenched chest, the smirking, and all of that does not do him any justice whatsoever.
And for you, in your experience, because we are breaking down, works of art, these courtroom sketches, and these sketch artists are very good at putting pictures together and turning them out fast. How accurate, in your experience, as we're about to break down some of the sketches we've been seeing recently, are the artwork of a courtroom sketch artist compared to the reality of what we're seeing in the courtroom?
No, they're not. And I'm going to tell you why. Expressions, especially those that are concealed, flash off the face in 1/15 of a second and then go back to neutral. So when you're looking at an expression, what it's not telling you is what was the stimulus, what was the question, what was the reason why he had that appearance. So when you've got a sketch artist who is drawing it, most often they're more exaggerated. So the deep furrows, the deep lines in the face may not truly depict exactly what it was. So as I read facial expressions, I'm looking at all of the 52 muscles in the face and how they morph.
What the fuck? Anyway, yo, chat. I do have some bad news for y'all. I do have to run. I gotta run. I'm gonna miss the afternoon session. It'll all be revealed. Don't you worry. Nothing bad. I gotta run. I'm gonna finish up later on the afternoon session. They're getting out in 2 hours anyway, so we only got 2 hours left. Again, I apologize. Trust me, I hate doing a short stream. We've only been on for 20 minutes. Not 20 minutes, 2 hours. I will give you an update as soon as possible. More will be revealed at a later time, okay? But I gotta go, okay? I apologize. Chat, I'll give you the afternoon stream later, and we will clear up everything.